Welcome to another morning. Yesterday was very frustrating. Very frustrating. Because I thought, when I left here at lunchtime, I thought, well, at least just before lunch, I thought, I'll go to Mum and Dad's. I've got the pump with me. It'll take half an hour, 40 minutes to change over. I programmed the serpentine belt and everything. So I had to pull the guard liner out of it so I could get in there to frickin' put the belt back on at the end of it, because there's not enough room without it off. I tried to keep it in place and then just slip it back on the bottom, but yeah, so I had to pull the whole inner liner off. So it was probably a bit over an hour. It was probably about 1:15 by the time I got it back on, and everything back done up. And I probably spent probably a total of 40 minutes with it jacked up the front, turning it from lock to lock to try and get this thing to bleed and to steer. I had it down twice, tried to take it for a drive. And it's bloody near lock solid. I don't know what's going on. I just don't know whether the crap from the old pump is jammed valves in the rack. I don't know. Or whether there's a pressure switch somewhere in the system that's not activating something, not letting the valves go, or what. I'm going to shoot back there later on after I've finished here this morning. I had to grab Mum and Dad's car, which is basically the same thing, but 7 years newer. So what I might do, because I didn't have enough fresh fluid, I might go into town and buy a couple of, I don't know, litres of power steering fluid. I'll see whatever the cheapest way is to buy it and try and get the right fluid for that particular car, because now there's not, power steering fluid used to be power steering fluid once upon a time, but it's like fucking everything else now. There's like different variations of God knows how much shit. I don't know why they just can't make things less complicated, but typical nowadays. So I might get a couple bottles of power steering fluid. I've still got the old rack there. I'm going to have a good study of that. And see if I can work out what the fuck's going on, because it's highly frustrating. Now that I put another pump in it, we put a rack in it there a while ago. I thought it was the pump that was failing, or that, we originally thought that maybe the filters in the reservoir were stopping, were blocked up and they were stopping the fluid from running around. That didn't seem to be the case, because there was no filters in the original one. So yeah, and then we thought, oh, maybe the pump's failing because we'd put another rack in it. But yeah, I don't know whether we've got a bad rack again now. I don't know. So yeah, I might persevere and actually pull the old one apart and have a look and see what's going on in it, so I can understand how it works. If I can pull it apart, if you know what I mean, and actually suss out how all the valving works, and see whether I can maybe, I don't know, I don't want to pull the fucking rack out of it. If I have to, I have to, but, because yeah, unfortunately I wasn't there to help Dad do it. He sort of managed to get it done before I had a chance to help. One day, he started in the morning and then got it back together that night. But yeah, frustrating as shit, really, to be honest. Yeah, I thought the pump would have fixed the problem, but obviously not. So yeah, I don't know. So yeah, my thought is possibly reflush the whole system. Try that. Pull the two reservoirs off, clean them out with some brake clean. Give them a bloody good rinse out. Try and make sure the filter in that new one's clean again-ish, or as clean as I can get it. And fill one reservoir full of new fluid, have the other one, and use the little block-off caps to put on the bottoms of the hoses that aren't being filled up for both reservoirs. Use one for the feed, one for the return, and just keep pumping the system and keep emptying and flushing the fluid until you get clean fluid, and see if then we can get power steering. Because yeah, I just didn't have enough to to do that fully. And see if that'll bring it right and flush all the old shit out of it. And I'll have a look, see if there's a pressure switch on that old rack. Because I'm pretty sure it was complete. I didn't get a chance to, again, I didn't get a chance to look at it because I never unwrapped it. Dad did that. I just took it round to him all wrapped up, and it had all the tie rods in it and ends on it and everything. Like, it had everything, rack ends, tie rod ends, the whole kit and caboodle was complete from one end to the other. Dad just pulled the other one out and just slipped that one in and just did the frickin', put the nuts on their rack ends and bolted it up, basically, you know. So yeah, I don't know what else. I don't know if, yeah, it's like something's blocked or something. I don't know. It's just got no power steering whatsoever. It's bad. So yeah, that's the only thing I can think to do is check and make sure it's not a pressure switch somewhere that's not activating something, or try and reflush the system with clean, fresh fluid and put it through both reservoirs so that old stuff's going into one and be putting straight fresh stuff, just pump it through and it's not recycling, not mixing. And try and get all the old shit out of it and see if it comes right. Or it's maybe the valving in the rack's jammed up with all the crap, I don't know. Fucking pain in the ass, so. Pain in the ass. So yeah, I'll pull that other rack apart and try and work out how it works. To see whether I can strip it and clean it and go from there, see if I can get it to work, if you know what I mean. Fucking modern fucking cars, man, you just want them to work. Pain in the ass when they don't. Right now, so I never got back here because I spent probably frickin' another 2 hours fucking around with the thing trying to get it to work. I mean, trying to test drive it and whatever. But so I swapped this over, the shaft over, and put it in the other housing. And it's not probably as good as I thought it would have been. It had a little bit of movement in it. But it's actually got more. It's not too bad one way, but it's got a bit more the other. So I don't really know whether pump it full of grease and just see how much movement it's got left, or whether I just bite the bullet and get this one. Because this one here's been bushed. This has actually got bushes in it. Whereas now that I've got it cleaned up, you can see that it's had inserts put in it, where this one doesn't look like it's ever had inserts put in it. So, yeah. We might just bite the bullet and get it done. Just get inserts put in one. Because I don't think there's any point using this shaft. It's got too much wear on it. But yeah. So yeah, now I'll have to pull this apart again. So I didn't think it was going to be too bad, but yeah. It's not as good as I thought it was. So yeah, I put the split pin and everything back in it just to get a decent idea and put it back in the housing, but it's not as good as I thought it was. Maybe when you pack it full of grease, it might take a bit of that movement out. You know, it might be quite so bad because it's got nothing in there. But yeah, like it's not as though it's real freaking sloppy or anything, but I just don't know. I'm half tempted to pump it full of fucking grease. Try it. Oh, because it's just fucking so frustrated with the car. It pisses me off. Fucking modern vehicles. It's so fucking complicated. The cunts of things to work on. That one was anyway. I changed the pump and everything was fine, but oh fucking pain in the ass though. Thinking that's what the problem is. And I don't know if it was. I really don't know if it was. But I can't drive it like that. You can barely steer the fucking thing. Like as much as good as power steering is, God, freaking like in Just a fucking manual steering wheel would be nice sometimes. We'll just drive around with gorilla arms. Anyway, I'll carry on and get some of this shit together. I'll get this little clamp off that I was going to pull off yesterday, because I just never got back here, unfortunately. I had all intentions to come back, you know, maybe spend an hour or two getting that sorted and bleeding and trying to sort it out, but by the time I was done there I was so fucking frustrated I didn't want to touch anything. We know how to cry. Not really, but you know what I mean. Friggin' pain in the ass. But on a good note, I think, don't quote me on this, I think we might be onto a fucking clutch bearing. I can't remember if I've told you this or not yet, but the other day I've contacted a couple of people, and this one guy reckons he's got, not the one that I'm going to get it up, but this one guy reckons he's got a brand new old stock Studebaker that's never been sold. He's a parts guy by the sounds of it, but I don't know, it just sounds a bit fishy to have, like, not to say that they're not around, but to have a brand new 1925 Standard 6 Studebaker that's never been sold and pulling it apart for parts just sounds a wee bit fishy to me. Like, why would that not be in a museum? And he said he would pull the gearbox out of it in bits and pieces to get the clutch bearing out, and but he wants $500 US for it, or $500 US is about the same as what we would cost to get a bearing actually made, and then we'd actually know it was the right thing instead of him pulling it out and it's maybe the same as that other one, and we'd be no fucking further ahead. So yeah, I don't know, because he messaged me through Facebook, through the Studebaker pages, and I'm not saying that he's not a genuine person, and I'm not saying that it's not, but it just, to have a almost no mileage 1925 Studebaker that's, I don't know what sort of condition it's in, like I don't know where it's been sitting sort of type thing. If it's been in storage all its life, well, it should be in fairly good shape, but to have never been driven any more than probably 10, 20 miles, maybe just testing, to me, like, it sounds like it might have been, you know, maybe one of the last ones off the line of that year, and then they changed, or they redid it, whatever. But yeah, it just sounds fishy. It just, I don't know, like $500 US is a lot of money, when we could actually get a brand new bearing made and delivered for that kind of money, and then you know it's exactly right. It just sounds too good to be true to warrant it. So yeah, so I'm a little bit dubious that one. But anyway, I was hunting through eBay. I just typed in vintage clutch release bearings, and this one guy came up and he had a lot of listings for the 20s or teens and 20s and 30s car clutch bearings and clutches and stuff like that, where obviously I don't know whether he remanufactures them or has old stock stuff or what, but anyway, I couldn't find a listing for our model Studebaker, but there was some for E6s and, you know, Fords and Chevs and all sorts of things around that same sort of era. So I messaged him and I said, look, we've got a 1925 Studebaker, standard 6, we need a clutch release bearing for it. And I sent him a couple of photos of the housing. I said, it's got to go in there. I just actually sent a link to a video I made the other day that I sent to some people. That's that one with the supposedly never driven never sold car that he's going to pull apart, which just sounds fishy. So that's why I never really contacted him back much more than that after he was sort of talking $500 and eventually got out. Come to realise that it wasn't like a brand new old stock part in a box. It was on a brand new old stock car that had never been driven anywhere, never been sold. You know, and just had basically maybe DL miles on it, or you know, or it might have been one of the last ones in the factory, and then they brought the new model out, and then it was never shipped out, sort of type fucking thing. It's possible, but you know, there's probably quite a lot of that sort of stuff around, but just whether he actually fucking just sounds too good to be true. But yeah, this other guy, yeah, I sent him all the measurements and bits and pieces, and I sent him this video, and I sent him pictures of the housing. Yeah, and he did say that he's had inquiries for that bearing before, and he was going to check to see whether he had anything. There must have been something else that was compatible, and he couldn't remember what it was. But yeah, so he was going to have a hunt out and work it out. So he said he's got one. It's like $175 US, which is like fucking way less. But I said to him, I said, can you send me pictures of it, just so I can confirm it's the right style of bearing? Because I said everything else we've had sent from Australia and other places has just been the complete wrong style of bearing. So I sent him the video that I made the other day that I sent to other people. So yeah, I haven't heard back from him yet, but I'm hoping it's the right thing, because yeah, I just said I haven't got the bearing here to show them. The people that we've been hunting for the bearing here, that we've been getting the other stuff that were wrong, they've still got it at the moment. So yeah, maybe, might be onto something, finally. Better hang those up there. Tight. But yeah, it'd be nice if we can find a bearing. Even if it is a couple $100 US plus shipping. It's still going to be expensive, but it's better than $500 on a bearing that's on a car that's brand new, that's never been used, that might be just a big fucking have. Yeah, the selling just sounds too good to be true to be saying, oh yeah, pull it apart and here's a freaking deposit and never see your fucking money again type thing. Just too fishy to me. But anyway, we'll carry on here. Right, so I've got that little bracket off, that piece, which we'll clean up shortly and clean all the bits and bolts and stuff up. I was just thinking, just talking with the owner, there's no real, even though there's a grease nipple or grease zerk in there that you can pump this piece full of grease, because there's no groove in here or whatever, it's very awkward, even though the grease is going to get in there, but because it's not pumping directly into, say, here or here, it's very awkward for that grease to get in here. So what I'm thinking, and I've seen this done on rocker shafts on like small block Chrysler V8s and stuff, is just get a cutting disc and the grinder and just come along here and just score a groove in here, and then just give the shaft just another clean up and a polish, so the grease can get out into that shaft and help lubricate in that case so it doesn't wear as quick. It's a bit of an old school sort of hot rodding a tip, I guess, you know, but instead of being on a rocker shaft, it's in this, so at least when it's spinning, the grease that it picks up and gets pushed into here, it will actually squirt out into here occasionally. You know, it will squirt out here and actually help lubricate in this housing, instead of just sitting in here and just when it gets hot, then it would run out in here, but it's actually pre-lubing it before it even moves. So it actually gets out in there and it's not wearing so much, because it has got these little grooves cut in here in that face, but it's not really pushing it out into this part of the housing. So if you sat there and just because this is going to be centralised, as long as I don't cut too far out. But I can cut a long way out into that housing, like even if I cut sort of 3/4 of it, or 2/3 of it out, and just score a mark in there. It doesn't have to be terribly deep, you know, like, oh fuck, I don't know, a 1/16 of an inch deep or whatever. It doesn't have to be terribly deep, but just a little bit of depth, so the grease will run out in there, and it'll just help lubricate that shaft bit as it's spinning. So I might do that on this. So I might strip this down again, cut that on this one, and then you know, I've got another shaft there if I really need to, or whatever. But yeah, and then put this back together and pump it full of grease and just see how it feels. And at least then, if the grease can get right out in there, easier. It's got at least path of resistance, you should call it. It's bound to last longer. So you know, these have lasted a fair while. This has been rebushed at some stage to repair it. So yeah, or there might have been a later version and it's been pre-bushed. So yeah, I might do that just for a little bit of longevity, you know, a little bit of a hot rodder's tip, and then I'll put the shaft, maybe, and even if it's just nip it up in the drill and just sit there and polish it up with a bit of freaking 800 and 1000 sort of type thing, just for a couple of minutes to clean it up, just to take any little burrs off the edges and stuff so it's not sharp. So you might do that. So we'll pull this apart again. Use my screwdriver. Taking any sharp edges off there, but that will lubricate really nicely on that shaft now. More better than it ever did before anyway. Gives it a pass for the grease to get out. Put it back together again. Just make sure that there's okay. Should be. Yep. Put it back together and we'll pop it full of grease and see if she's good. I think it'll be fine. Well, as far as we can get the bushes remade if we need to, but that will be right. Right, so clutch bearing info. Again, this has been quite a journey. It really has been quite a journey. So, been talking to this guy that sells a lot of old clutch bearings and stuff like that on eBay, and I think he's in the States. I'm not pretty sure he's in the States, but yeah, he said they're almost impossible to get for these Studebaker. He had an option which was very, very, very slightly bigger. This is the outside measurement that was meant to be, and we'd have to take a tiny, tiny little bit out of this housing, about a millimetre total, or 40 thou, I think it is, whatever it is, just slightly under. But he also just said to us he would like to purchase our old bearing and reproduce it, because that particular bearing, because we sent him pictures of the original with all the information on it and all that sort of stuff, and he said, yeah, that bearing has been obsolete for quite a long time. I don't know how long, but quite a long time. It was obviously one of those one-off sort of type sort of thing that was really only probably only used in maybe half a dozen sort of makes and models back in the day, whereas some of the others might have been a bit more common bearing. So yeah, they're not reproduced at the moment at all, as far as we know. That's why we've had so many fucking problems trying to find one. Maybe 20 or 30 years ago we might have been able to find old stock, but it doesn't sound like there's any old stock ones available. He did have the option on it, very, very slightly bigger, almost identical dimensions, but not quite. And the biggest problem is because this isn't terribly thick through there, like taking a half a millimetre out each side, probably wouldn't really hurt, but then also you're taking away from a little bit of structural integrity on this thing. So if something does happen to fail and it cracks and splits the housing, well, then you're really in the poo. You could always spin this, clean it up a little bit and put a sleeve over top and Loctite it on to make it a little stronger if you had to. But when he said that he would like to purchase our bearing and reproduce it, I just sent him an email back and said, well, we send you the fucking bearing, how long is it going to take you to make them? And we'll get one of the first ones and try it. So yeah, like this other guy that supposedly had this new old stock 1925 Studebaker, standard 6. The story's just a bit hard to believe. Like, why would you pull apart a car that's never been out of the factory or never got past a showroom floor? And why would you, with so low mileage, pull it apart? Why would you not put it in a museum or something like that? Just, that doesn't quite... The story was almost too good to be true, to pull apart a car to get the bearing out of it. And again, if it's been sitting that long and it hasn't moved for a long, long time, is it going to have moisture in there? You don't know, just with sitting and sweating and shit, fucking does funny things, you could end up with rust on the inside of that bearing. It might be half locked up. Anyway, you don't know how good it is. Especially if it's been sitting around and it's got almost virtually no miles on it. Apparently all it's meant to have had is factory testing sort of type miles, and maybe on and off a truck sort of type thing at some point, but you know what I mean. Just, it's believable at a far stretch. Like, I would believe like that sort of stuff does exist, but what was the likelihood of somebody having and it probably wouldn't have been a open top tourer, but somebody having a 1925 standard 6 Studebaker just floating around that was brand new, that's never been used, old stock. We were prepared to pull the gearbox out of it to get the clutch bearing off it. It just didn't quite sit right with me. So yeah, I was talking to this guy, So it'll be interesting to see what he comes back with, and the time frame. If it can be done within a month or two, well, it's probably worth chasing, because then we don't have to alter that. And it will always be stock, and if he's going to reproduce them, well, we always know where to get another one. You know, how many he produces, who would know, but there's bound to be quite a few of these standard 6 Studebakers out there that use this clutch bearing, and if they're that hard to get, well, it's probably worth doing, you know, if there's a few around. You know, who wants to alter something if you can get the right thing, you know, so we'll see how we get on there. So I'll give you an update when I hear back from him. Oh God, it's that flickering light. Right, morning guys, so welcome back to NZ Motorcycle Kustoms again. So, Monday morning, and it's very fresh and cold again. Get some diesel for the heater, and get that cranked up. Got a few little bits and pieces of paint, like the bracket for the coil, and a few of the odds and sides, and there's a couple of bits in here that I want to put some that heat-proof paint on, some of the a couple of brackets on here that go on there to hold that exhaust manifold, intake manifold on. And a few other bits and pieces I want to paint up, while the bracket for the spare wheel. I'll paint that too and get that fitted. Or at least get the U-shaped bracket painted and slip that underneath, and then I can do a final test for that other piece. At some point we'll go spin that nut piece up, and I've got a few other bits and pieces here to put on. So yeah, I've got to work out then all the nuts and bolts and stuff for that, and give them a wee clean up too, which I've actually, I think I've got here. I think that's these. I think it's these. Yeah. Because they've all got, well, 2 got holes in them for wire tying and 2 of them don't, so, you know, we'll give them a clean up, and get some of this final stuff on here, and then we can, when we get it back in the car, can do that. Actually, I want to pull that off and just give that a light scuff, and then I'll give that another wee, just a dusting of black, just to clean it up. Where I had the tape on, and I've got a little bit of overspray on the edge from that. So I want to do that too. Yeah, I might just leave it on there until I got some heat. So yeah, a few bits and pieces like that to do, and then yeah, we might make. Go around to Dad's and make the nut, maybe. We'll test fit the bracket, and then we'll make the nut for that piece. And yeah, I might see if maybe that, how fucking long they're going to be with that diff pinion. So you maybe get that fucking together and get that cleaned up so I can paint that too. Or at least get it prepared to be painted. And I need to tell them to hold off on the distributor housing. Hopefully they haven't started with that, because we're going to put that in the video I just edited. I was just saying that we're going to look at putting possibly a Holden 202 distributor in it. But I was just actually thinking, just popped in my head, I wonder if it would be worth persevering with that distributor, just in case. Like if the Holden distributor works, which is electronic, I wonder if it would be worth setting that distributor up anyway and see if we can find a rotor for it, just in case it ever happened to fail the electronic. and then you've got a points distributor that you can slop in the hole. At a pinch, you know, as a backup. Like, especially if you're doing that Paris to Peking, like the electronic would be way better than the points. But if you had to get along the road, especially over there, like in New Zealand and Australia, would be fine with the black 202 because you can just order another one. They remanufacture them all the time. But if you had to be over there, if you had a rebuilt points distributor, like you'd test it and run it, obviously. But yeah, if you had that ready to just slot in, as long as you don't have to alter anything here to put the other one in, you'd better just swap it over and put the leads and stuff on it, and where you go again, if you know what I mean. You might have to carry a spare set of leads, because I know some of them, I think the Holden distributor caps have got the stalks on them. I think, I just have to wait and see, yes. If they happen to have the push-on ones where you probably get away with them, push-in ones, but yeah. But yeah, I just wonder if it would be worthwhile having that if you did do a big trip, just in case, because fucking electronics fail all the time. But anyway, I'm going to carry on with that stuff over there, and yeah, well, I'll do something. I'm losing my train of thought here for a minute. We'll get ourselves sorted. Alrighty, troops. So I've got test fit of that back in there with that bracket. I haven't clamped it up properly, but it's the bolts in there and whatever. It's not tight, but it's on there, if you know what I mean. I've got most of these bits and pieces painted, and they're just sort of kind of sitting here in the sun. I did have the heat gun sort of blowing on here when it was a bit cooler, but now that the temperature's starting to lift, we've got a bit of sun in here, so I've got a few nuts and bolts and bits and pieces painted, so at least I can fluff around, bolt some of that crap on. And these are the bolts for the little drive piece for the side for all the big nylon washers, whatever you want to call them, drive washers. These here can't be far away from sort of being okay to put on, but I'm going to quickly throw this stuff on, at least sort of just put it on there, and then I think what I might do is go round to Mum and Dad's and see what we can work out with this. And I'm trying to decide whether I use this bolt or not. I'll take it with me, see if Dad's got a tap that's that right thread. Otherwise, because I'm not sure what thread it is, I think it's Imperial. I'm not 100% sure on that, or standard. I think it is. See if Dad's got a tap and dine up to fit that, and then I'll start pissing around with this and make at least start turning up a bit to go in here. So obviously I want it to try and almost go right in so I can catch as much as this thread as possible, because then we don't need that nut. Yeah, and it'll be about this diameter, or thereabouts. We'll work out exactly how much we can have it in that diameter to miss this, and then work out exactly what we're doing, whether we get it to a point where I can make a nut on here, or whether we have a bit more of a wing nut stick out. I've got plenty of material to work with, so I could quite easily make a wingy nutty thing out of this and chop the crap out of it, if you know what I mean. We'll see how we get on, because if I can get a half reasonable thing on here, I think I can lay out and work out a half reasonable size nut thing, and I might be able to use the yeah, that bucking, that's right, the chuck's bucking bent on that thing, isn't it? I was going to use this to do it. Maybe. Yeah, I was going to use that to frickin' mill the sides, but it's so fucking... If it was still true, a boy would do it. Even though it's shit, because this is like so much softer, if you know what I mean. I'll work something out anyway. I'll work something out. But I'll get it started at least. And turn it down and whatever. And get it down to the point where I can make this fit this. If this will fit in Dad's truck. I'm not sure if it will or not. We'll find out. See if we can start making a nut for that. Because I won't paint this, because I'll paint this with proper paint instead of rattle can, so it's the same finish as that. So I'm not too worried about the back bracket, but this year I would like to have it at least painted with 2-pack. Actually, no, I'll paint the whole thing with 2-pack. I haven't painted the little other bracket underneath with 2-pack. I don't think it'll matter quite so much. It's not seen. But at least this is going to be, I wouldn't say it's going to be high wear, if you know what I mean. Like it's always going to have a spear on it, but it's going to be a bit more weathered, open. So I'll paint it with 2-pack. I've got plenty of other bits and pieces to paint with some 2-pack paint. And when I'm finished mucking around with this and at Mum and Dad's, we'll at least call in and see whether those guys have got that pinion shaft maybe fucking sorted. And I actually need to take that back, because I wanted the rest of that back, because I didn't have a lot that size, so I'll throw that in the car. Yeah. And hopefully I get a pinion back for that, so I can at least get that kind of back together. This doesn't matter too much for a few days. Like I can't put the bastards in anyway, so we'll just keep playing with that and we'll get more things sorted. We've got the carburetor to put together. Still got the distributor to work out exactly what we're doing there. Whether we can use that Holden distributor, or whether we can use a Holden 6-cylinder distributor from the 70s and 80s or whatever. We'll work that out too. So, I'll carry on. I'll throw some of this shit in the car. Might throw those bits and pieces and bolts and back on some of that stuff and just see what it looks like, and we'll sort out what we're going to do next. I started putting this stuff on, but I really need some little washers to go on the other sides of these. I can only see, I don't know whether they were all on there originally or not. When it was originally pieced together. It wouldn't surprise me if it wasn't, because it was never fully, sorted properly. Obviously, the head wasn't on properly and lots of shit, so I need to find some more little washers. I might have them in amongst bits and pieces I've got floating around here. I might find enough stuff. I need to go through all my little boxes of crap. And I was going to throw this on here, but it's not actually the original coil. No, it's something that's been adapted, but the original coil was actually quite big. It looks like it's, I wouldn't say half the size of this, but kind of, well, yeah. But it was a fairly good diameter, and it looked like it was fairly big. So this is like obviously a slightly more modern thing, because the bowl hole doesn't match up on this. But then I actually looked at this and I was like, what's that fit? And I was like, somebody's drilled an extra hole in it. Because the original coil, with the book, was bloody huge. Really, like compared with a more modern thing, even like the one I pulled off it, which is still not modern. If you look at the picture on here, wherever it is, the coil is just pretty huge. Look how big that is. It's pretty big. It sits on top of that bracket, so yeah, it was quite a large thing. So that's not a bad alternative to fit a modern sort of coil on there, I guess. So yeah, we might just have to do what we've done here. Drill a hole in it. Which is, you know, no point frickin' painting another piece. We'll just get that out of a bit of a happy medium and poke another hole in here. And then we can screw it on, bolt it on. So it's no biggie, just something else you got to do. But I think I might go and play with the aluminium piece. I'm just going to take that out of the bracket back off here now. Well, the outside bit, so I can at least make sure when I get it down to about that diameter in there, and we can get it close to this sort of diameter here, so it'll turn around and make sure that we have got enough room. I might have to make it a little bit smaller, a little bit, because I did cut a hunk off the bottom, so there is a bit more gap there than what needs to be. I think it's still fairly roundish, you know, within reason. So it just matters seeing what fits when I get turned down a bit and just get it dialed in and make the other piece. Because the proper thing would sort of poke out here, and it's sort of like got a dome on it, and it's got like almost like a nut effect on it with a key in the centre. So whether it sort of like stops you from unlocking it, I'm just not sure how they would have done that back in the day, but there's lots of modern things that are like that, you know, like wheel nuts that go on spare wheels that are the same principle. But yeah, so we'll work that out and just make something up that looks close. Now we'll go get this off and we'll head around to Dad's and we'll have a play. Righty guys, so welcome to NG Mopar Dad's workshop. This must be metric. I think it might be 16 mil. I'm not 100% sure on that. So we look here. I think it's 16 mil. It must be somewhere around about there. Yeah, something like that. It's close to 5'8", but it's not. See, it's 5'8", fine. It's too coarse for that, but it's not coarse enough for 5'8" coarse. So yeah, so it must be 16 mil. So I'll go get. I've got 5'8" here, 18 mil, and 3/4. So I'll go get a 5'8" bolt, probably a coarse one, to make this piece. So I'm going to start turning this. I think it's going to be a bit slow because I tried to put the belt on the highest speed and it trips out. Doesn't like going too fast. The poor old motor doesn't really like being on the highest speed on the belt. It's too much drag for it, unfortunately. So yeah, I can't really get it very fast to cut that off at a reasonable pace. Thought with aluminium I might have been able to speed it up a bit and cut a little bit more off, but yeah. So anyway, I'm going to have to turn that down to, basically I'm going to turn it down to, I think I'm going to make just the nut piece instead of having the big wing nut thing. Yeah, I think that's what I'm going to do. Once I turn it down, it's turned down. I can't get back from there. So yeah, I've got to turn it down to about 65-ish, which is, what's that? But over 2.5 inches. So I got a lot to fucking take off it. Which is not kind of ideal if I got to spend absolutely freaking as chopping that down with this poor old drill. It's going to be pretty slow I don't think Gareth's got any other smaller bits of aluminum that are a bit smaller in diameter. So I'll see how I get on. If it's going to take, if it's going to take 3 hours to turn this fucking down, well, I'll turn it down a bit for a start, see how fast I can, how long it's going to take me to get a few cuts off it, to get it down a bit, and I'll assess. Basically, I'll work till about lunchtime, which is not an hour away now, because I've just been waffling the missus for about fucking 30 minutes because she wouldn't shut up on the video call. She said, like, oh, good morning to me, and it's like, oh, I better give her a quick video call. Yeah, half an hour later, still waffling. I said, fuck, I better go and do something. So yeah, so I'll spend a little bit of time turning a bit off this, see how long it takes, and yeah, I would decide whether I just give it to the engineers and fucking get them to make it, and half dozen the other, you know what I mean. But yeah, we'll see how we get on.
Out to the show, kick it into high gear, now we let go. And if you're feeling weary, I feel like you gotta scream, then let's go for a ride in a shiny machine. There's no time to be humble, smiling at the sound of an echoing rumble. Hit the open road, push the pedal to the ground. Heavy metal thunder, smoke and lightning, it's time to pump up the sound. If you're in a worry, we know what you need.
Righty, this is pretty crap aluminium, unfortunately, or aluminum. It's obviously been a really shit casting somewhere along the line or whatever. I'm going to carry on. Get a bit lower so you can see my place. It's a pretty crap piece of casting, or whatever, you know, but if it would have been just a pretty cast piece that somebody's started turning up for something and then flagged it. And I think I'm going to do the same, but I'm going to carry on, but not use it as the proper thing. I think I'll try and get a better fucking piece. It's pretty shit, but it might be right for just proof of concept and trying to work out exactly what I'm doing, and then I can get a better piece and get it fucking made properly. Or turn it myself, but make it properly so it's not so. It's pretty fucking shit. I might be able to get a slightly smaller piece so it won't take so long to turn up. But yeah, that should now, in theory, fit over here. Like I'll probably have to turn this down a bit more. Does it fit over there? No. So I need to turn it down more yet. Well, close, but maybe when it moved it. Oh, close to fitting in there. Yeah, not quite down enough. Take another slither or two off of there, and yeah, I think we'll just use it as proof of concept. We might drill it out and put a rough thread in it and whatever, and yeah, it just looks like it's pretty poor. I think it would tear out if I can get some half decent grade, get a half decent grade piece of aluminium slug from somewhere and turn it down. I think it'd be alright. I'll take a little bit more off of this and then I'll spin it round and I'll start machining the other side. I'm probably only going to leave it like a little bit here, and then we'll take it down to whatever diameter the rest of that is, and that's what we'll use to cut the nut sort of on it. And we might, if I can get a half decent thread in here, what I might do is get a short bolt that I can screw in there, and then just have a wee play with the mill and just see if I can get it. So if I can do that up tight, we might be able to put it in the vise and hold it by that nut, maybe. It's not sure, and then use it to turn the sides, and I can just run backwards and forwards on the same plane to make a nut. Not sure. Well, something like that. Like, you know, I'm no frickin' expert, but you know, you soon work things out and you work out better ways to do things, but I don't have anybody in my ear telling me how to do it differently, so we'll work on it. Here. Right, well, it's, what is it, 4:30 or whatever it is. I got that far. And unfortunately, it's just, if the casting wasn't all fucking pitty like that round there, I'd bloody near leave it, but it just looks, it's full of air fucking bubbles, this shit. But it's a good proof of concept. Like, that's going to work nice, and then by the time you cut a big hex on there, I think if you left it nice and meaty like that with being alloy, you know, you're going to be doing something pretty wrong to round it off. Like you could, but with being solid, basically, you'd be pretty unlucky. Now, we can put a wee bit more tolerance in it and maybe shade that down a little bit. So I think what I'll do in the morning, I'll go get a 5/8 bolt, and see if they get a half fucking decent piece of aluminium, and I'll have another go. Especially if I can get something that's close to that diamond, it won't take me too long to cut it down, because this is just, unfortunately, garbage. But it's good proof of concept. I think that'll look quite smart on the back of there. Bits and pieces, you know, I've got it, it's given me a chance to sort out a few imperfections in there when that's screwed up nice and tight. You know, with a little bit more fluffing around, I might cut this back a little bit. Yeah, I think we'll just make this a little bit smaller, and obviously when it's smoother and it'll slip around in there fairly reasonable. At the moment it's sort of a bit bindy, but I think it's a little bit smaller, just a little bit smaller in size. It'll be fine. And I think the 5/8 will be fine with a nice big coarse thread. Like I got fine there as well. I think the big coarse thread will probably be a bit better, I think. It's a little bit more, well, I don't know if it'd more bite or not, but you know what I mean. But I think that'd be fine. Yeah, and then we'll just, I think what I'll do is I'll map this out and work out what the size that nut will be roughly. I don't really know. I'm just kind of winging it at this point, obviously. We're working within what we've got. So what's that, 50, 54, slightly over 54 in diameter. So, I don't know, it's going to be about it's going to be about a 2-inch. It's going to be about 2-inch. Somewhere around about there, 2-inch frickin' hex, which would be pretty nuggety. That should be plenty to, whether I make up a spanner or we just find a big steel spanner so you can put it on there and give it a nip up. You know, when you're putting the wheel on there, hopefully it doesn't come loose. It's probably why it's got a lock in it maybe, but hopefully. We'll find out. We'll soon find out whether it works or not, and then I'll polish it all up. Yeah, that's pretty much me for the day. I can't really do much more than that. Kind of at my limit now. Anyway, I'll pack up and I'll recreate that tomorrow. I'll probably do it off camera. I'll just show you the result. I might come back a couple of times, sort of type thing. But yeah, I'll turn it off. Turn some lights off here. I'll grab my phone charger for the sheet just in case. So yeah, I think that'll do. We'll catch you tomorrow.